Ooh, let's do some vintage Valentine's Day projects. First up, by the way, isn't that a basket full of lovely handmade looking stuff? This image I found on the Graphics Fairy, and I just love it. I love it for all seasons actually. And I sent the image to Staples online, and it cost me a whopping 56 cents to have an 11 by 17 copy of that made. So what I did was I trimmed it out as carefully as I could all around every edge, and it was just regular paper thickness. Then I took a sheet of poster paper, not styroboard, although you could have used styroboard, but I just used regular poster paper, and I made sure that it fit onto the back as perfectly as I could. I ended up, trimming away just enough so that it went down in there perfectly. And after I was sure that it would fit well, then I got to work on gluing it down. Okay, get ready for this. It's glue stick. It's not even expensive glue stick. It's from the Dollar Tree, and you get 3 in a pack for $1. Glue it down, get it positioned, glue it down just in the center, and then a little bit at a time, add glue stick either to the back of your image cutout or to the poster paper itself. And you can always come back and add a little under the edges where you may have missed getting a good coverage there, but gently smooth it all down. And the reason I do this instead of decoupage, I find it just does better if it stays dry. Okay, look at this lovely stuff here. It is powder hairline, like root concealer. This came from Temu, and it was too light for my hair, for the roots of my hair anyway. So I thought, hey, this little sponge applicator thing would be ideal, because I have done this kind of thing before using eyeshadow. You can also use, darker shades of foundation, or you could, go to Hobby Lobby and get some chalk, pastel chalks, art things, actual art things. But, if you're like me, you use anything and everything to accomplish what you're trying to do. Now, the reason I'm even doing this is because it's on pure white paper, and I did want, let's see, I found another one there that just needed a little bit of glue. Just stick that down. You can even tell where I folded it back. I'll go ahead and do this a little more heavily around the edges, and that kind of disguises your edge, although the edge really didn't bother me, to be able to see a little bit of dimension there. But to make it look as if it might have really been a vintage printout or a print, a piece of art, I did the edges, and then I went around the poster paper, and I just kept going till I got it as aged as I wanted it to. Now, my frame I had found for $5, and it was kind of beat up. The back of it looks wood, but I had to touch up on the front where the plaster is. I also did use just a little bit of hot glue around the outer edge to make it lie down, and I had to add little round eyelets and a wire hanger. And that is my foyer, and I just think it turned out darling. I might go back and make it even more aged, and you could do little splatters of brown paint, just barely watered down. Next up, we're going to examine my basket of handwork. That's, all kinds of little laces and little buttons and embroidery floss and lots of different kinds of fabrics. Things that I thought looked vintage and Valentine-ish without being bright neon red, because this year I wanted to do Valentine's Day in a way that was more of a soft pink or blush kind of aesthetic. Now, these little round tiny stuffed pillows, I made a pattern just out of paper. You can fold a piece of paper in half and cut 1/2 of your heart shape, and when you open it up, you have a symmetric heart shape. Okay, now here's what I did. in addition to just different kinds of fabric, I had a quilt, and there's lots of examples of the different kinds of fabric, drop cloth and some blush fabric that I got at Hobby Lobby, and there is a tea towel that I'm even using. But the quilted material actually is from a quilt. I found a white queen size quilt that had some stains on it at the thrift store. They were not bad stains. They were just kind of just a little bit of discoloration in some small places, but I made stockings for them at Christmas, and whatever scraps I had after cutting out 16 full-size stockings, I saved all those scraps because it's just too luscious to not use the rest of it. Well, as you can see, I have stitched just a simple up and down, in and out stitch with my embroidery floss, and I didn't divide it up. I used the whole 6 strings in the embroidery floss. And when I got enough stuffing, by the way, don't bother buying polyfill if you have a bed pillow that's a little misshapen, or you're just, you're just tired of dealing with it turning a funny way or something. There's your polyfill right there, and you don't even have to buy any. So after I stuff it, I use my little needle and thread, and I just do a running stitch, which is just up and down, and I come out with so many cute little varieties. And that was what I did for ages. After Christmas, I sat and did little tiny hearts and stuffed them and hand stitched them and did all the things, and I just had the best time. Some of them I did a little blanket stitch around the edge, but most of them I just did the running stitch, and I did that purposely, left the edges raw so that they would be a little bit shabby chic. Project number 3. Okay, here is the Dollar General viral sheep planter that everybody was going crazy about. Now there's examples of what other people have done to theirs. See, it comes just black and silver, which I did not care for, and wouldn't you know, getting it from the car to the house, I broke a leg off the sheep on the left, lost a leg. So I used Gorilla Glue, and that didn't hold. And then I used another kind of glue, I can't even remember, and that didn't hold. Guess what held it? Finally, I used false fingernail glue, and that's what held it. Maybe it's just because of a buildup of so many things. Okay, I used the gesso to go ahead and take these sheep from black and silver to just a kind of a distressed, see, there it is, I knocked it off again. I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. Surely I can glue on something that's like a resin material. I mean, I do it all the time, but I use hot glue a lot as well. See, there it is, there's my fingernail glue, and I do have on little fake fingernails right now because I don't know what happened. I had grown out my actual fingernails and they were beautiful, and then they all broke. I don't know. So I just take it by spells, Sometimes I use nail wraps, sometimes I have the false fingernails, and sometimes I just use plain nail polish. But I do like to have pretty nails if I can, unless it's in the middle of outdoor season where I'm digging around in the yard, and then I just have to give it up for a while. All right, so you can see that I'm doing everything except the actual inside down in the planter. I didn't think that was quite necessary because I do plan to put things in my planter. So I did touch up a little bit. There's a lot of angles of this thing too. I had to turn it around and around, and I did get on the inside edge there, but I was okay with it not looking just snow white. It was okay with me that there was a little bit of dimension from the darker underneath. And I thought I might even, excuse me, I bumped my camera. I used a little bit of the Ballet Slipper pink chalk paint from Waverly. And the reason that I'm using pink is because I'm just on a pink kick. I'm loving everything soft pink lately. I don't know why. I just take these spells. So the pink I thought would be very, very cute for Valentine's Day and easily into spring. And you know what? If I decide that I would like to do it a different kind of way, like some of those examples I showed you at the beginning, it's just paint. You can start all over. You can paint it again. Look at my poor sheep on the front with a missing leg. My goodness, I still haven't gotten it on there, but I do it in the end. He has his leg again. But now you'll notice I'm not doing a thorough coverage of that pink. I'm just putting it on just willy-nilly. More willy than nilly. And I'm not worried about whether it looks, oh look, I'm having to paint the leg. I'm chasing it around my plate. Well, I just decided that I wanted some of the white to also show through, so it wouldn't be just like someone had just spray painted the planter pink. But after a little pink velvet ribbon is tied around his neck and I put some little cherry blossoms and greenery in the planter, I'm just charmed. I think they are precious. They might stay pink forever, not sure, but I do reserve the right to do things over in the future, and I'm famous for that. I change my mind and do it all over again, and I have fun, as much fun the second time as I did the first time. Okay, now look at this big thing. My mother-in-law found this for me when she thrifted, and it has a crack in it, but you know, that wouldn't stop me from using it just as it is. But the color is quite orange, and I thought that I would probably enjoy it if it were in neutral tones better than the orange. And it did even have kind of a chip out of the top, but that just causes me to think, well, then I can just do a pure makeover on this with no guilty feelings. See how bright that is? My word. And I do like a lot of those fall colors, but to me that's more of the several years ago when the Tuscan aesthetic was very popular. And I like things that are from all the different kinds of trends. There's a few things that I'll just keep with me even though the trend is over. If I like it well enough, I'll just keep using it. But this thing I thought had more potential and could be of more use in my home if I went ahead and made it just more of a neutral color that could go with any season. So that is what I'm doing. I'm putting the gesso on it and there's other kind of priming paints that you could use. You can do Kills or Zinsser. There's lots of different kinds of primers, but I just happened to find that big bottle pot of gesso at the thrift store, and I find that it's working quite well. It's meant to be fast drying. Okay, look at this beauty. Look at here. Okay, now we get to talk about my Crackle stamps again. Guess what? You can use Crackle paint, but I have better luck getting the effect I want just using a Crackle stamp. See how flexible it is? It's made of silicone. And you saw that I'm not using ink. I used gray paint. I just brushed it on there. There's a close-up of my dry hand. Go get some lotion, Marla. So I put the Crackle, I'll link that in the description box. I got mine from Amazon, I'm pretty sure. And after I go over the whole vase with the Crackle effect, I'm getting distracted by what's in the background because I still had my and I actually still do have my china cabinet has Christmas things in it. I just didn't have time to do it all. Nobody can believe the things I do. Okay, well, maybe you can. You're probably busy too. I assume nobody is as busy and crazy as I am, but y'all probably are. Okay, and I'm also taking a little bit of the blush pink because I'm crazy and I'm on a blush pink kick. So I'm using different tones, including a little bit of that gray paint that I had out using on the stamp. And you see how you just rub that around and make that look ridiculous? it's more believable than you think it will be if you just try it. And I use my fingers because I don't always have the control over it with a paintbrush or get the effect that I want. But I had fun with that, and I just dabbed on and decided that the places that needed a little bit of pink, they were going to get some pink. And I wish I could figure out a way to make it look like it was peeling up or get it to peel up, although that would be quite messy in your home. But there it is, doing a beautiful job of holding that drippy greenery from Hobby Lobby. I just love it. I think it's just handsome. And, you know, as you see these projects, each one getting finished, you're seeing a preview of my Valentine's Day decor, which at the end of the video, I'll give you a mini tour of all the areas of my home that have Valentine's Day decor. Project number 5. Okay, I told you I had a lot of the white quilt material. I had a lot of that, little tiny scraps of it. And so I decided I needed a little tiny white heart quilt garland. Okay, that's just a single sheet. It's not stuffed or anything, but you know, a quilt is made of layers. So in order to hide the knot, I tucked it in between the layers just so the knot wouldn't be as visible. Okay, and if you already know what a blanket stitch is, then you won't have to pay attention to this little tutorial. But as you can see, if you'll watch what I do a few times, you'll get the idea that in order to make a blanket stitch, when your needle is halfway through, wrap the thread around the back, and then when you pull it up, it makes the prettiest little square design. And that is a blanket stitch. Okay, now I forgot to wrap it around my needle this time. I'm also watching TV. People are talking to me. I'm getting my thread tangled in my scissors. But you see, you just can tuck it, you know, swoop it under there with your needle, and it's just fine. Okay, next step. This is so calming to me when I do this kind of handwork. It just makes my world right. Just makes my world feel right. I love it. Love it so much. I did kind of a grayish taupe color and 2 or 3 different shades of pink embroidery floss. Again, the whole 6 threads of the floss, because I wanted it to be thick enough to show up very well. And then I strung it with some beads in between, just on regular string. I just ran my thread into the back of each of those hearts, and then I put a bead, and then I ran my thread again, and I kept doing that until I had enough to go across my little fake fireplace mantle, which I love, by the way. I got it probably 15 years ago from Big Lots. I love it. It makes heat, but you could just have the flame and not have to have the heat. Okay, Hobby Lobby craft section had these little heart cutouts. There was 12 in a pack for $2 something, and then, you know, it was 40% off. So I decided I'm going to do decoupage and a paint treatment. But first I used antique wax, Waverly antique wax, in order to get a stained wood look. It needs to look dark before I do the paint layer over it. Now the other 6, I'm going to use these beautiful little craft papers that were from Hobby Lobby. And I did actually use Mod Podge and put those on. Put the papers onto the wood. And now I'm going to take that same flat, quick drying gesso and just get a little bit on my brush and very non-professionally, I don't know what, non-neatly, unneat. I'm dragging it across just to give it a weathered wood look. Shabby chic kind of look. I really do love shabby chic. My heart beats faster when I see shabby chic beautiful things. Okay, so I'm putting that on there in such a way that you can still see the dark stain, coming through, and that does give it a nice weathered effect. The papers, the set of papers is actually dollhouse wallpaper from Hobby Lobby, and it is the prettiest little collection of miniature printed things. Now these hearts already had a hole drilled in them, but I had to stick one of my miniature screwdrivers through there to poke through the paper. I had a roll of satin narrow off-white trim that I'm going to use to go through, but I noticed that my cutouts of paper were kind of overlapping the edges of the wood, and that bothered me, so I took a little sanding block and I just rubbed against the edge until the paper was exactly flush with the edge of my wood. Now I'm taking the same string and tying a knot every few inches and coming up through the heart, and I'm spacing it out so that I'm going to do 2 strings, 6 hearts on each string, and hang them in such a way that they are staggered, and I can actually, I did 3 strings, I think. And anyway, because I wanted a variety to hang offset from one another. Then I tied the 3 ribbons together in a knot at the top, and I hooked it onto the mirror. And there they are with my sheep. Isn't that cute? And that big round cutout thing was from Hobby Lobby. Project number 7. This will be a quick one. This was just a metal silver frame that I thought I might do rub and buffed and make it gold, but then I decided, no, let's do it white, and then I'll do some of that pretty paper behind the glass, because I thought I would put a picture of my grands in it. But then I found this snapshot of my little granddaughters, and it was so precious, I decided just to let the whole picture be just the girls. Is that the sweetest thing you've ever seen in your life? I love it. Number 8. Okay, now it's time to do a bigger quilted pillow. Now, I made the pattern out of just brown craft paper, and I want you to look at this old quilt. I think I paid $3 for it, and it was falling apart when I bought it, had big rips, big stains, and I bought it knowing that I would use it as a cutter for little projects. The back of it is pink, a very, very pretty shade, soft shade of pink. So I wanted to feature the pink side as the side that will show. So I made a pattern, with my craft paper, and then I cut it out, and as usual, my dog is with me everywhere I go. This quilt has better and worse areas, so I made sure that the front side was one of the worst areas that I wouldn't want to use for another project, so that just the back, and to make it so that I didn't have 2 front and back thick quilt sections, I used that blush pink cotton fabric from Hobby Lobby, and I used embroidery thread and a great big needle, because what I'm going to do, if it wasn't clear on the little hearts, you can see it better on this bigger one. A running stitch is just going down and up and down and up and down and up, and you just do that all the way around. And again, raw edge, not turned inside out, just this you're just doing it from the front, from the outside, wrong sides to wrong sides, when you place your front to your back, and then stuff it, seal it up. It's so cute. Here is a $1 wine box that I loved the red floral toile on it, but I did not love the red and gold. It looked too Christmassy to me. So using painter's tape, I taped off the part that I wanted to keep the same, And then I used that ballet slipper pink and made sure all that red and gold part was covered up so that I could use it with my Valentine's Day decor. It would have been pretty with Christmas things, but you know, Christmas won't come again for a while, and I had a great hankering to use it for a Valentine's Day decor. It also had a little tiny stripe around the bottom that I took care of, and the entire lid. It had also a very ugly piece of nylon cord up through the holes in the top, and I took that away because I knew I had some ribbon that would be much prettier than what that was. But I think one coat of that ballet slipper might have covered it. Chalk paint's pretty good to cover thoroughly, but it dries so quickly that it's no big deal if you do need to put a second coat. Alright, so now I'm peeling off the top and bottom tape, and the red is no longer a problem for me. There we go. Oh, I'm touching up something. I do reserve the right to touch things up. Eternally. Okay, see what this is? A plastic drinking straw. And I'm making little eyelet things because the first time I tried sticking my ribbon through the hole was so big that the whole ribbon, no matter how big I made the knot, it was coming through. So I took a little piece of plastic drinking straw to make it bigger so that it would not come through. I guess it's acting like a little washer. I guess I could have used a washer. I do have some of those on hand. But for whatever reason, plastic straw came to my mind to solve this problem. So there's another little piece of straw. And it was kind of hard working in that little small space because everything had to stay attached when I was tying that last knot. See, doesn't that look better? That cream ribbon looks way better. And I have always loved toile. It's just, I guess that is a quintessential French country look. Now this is the shelf above my couch. And I have the little books and the coral stay up there a lot. You'll see a better picture of it later at the end. Okay, I wanted pink books, and I didn't have any pink books that I could see in my collection of old vintage books, but I had several faded red books that almost looked orange. So I picked up 2 or 3 recently, and I had 2 or 3, and so I just decided that the linen covers that are my favorite would look fabulous painted with chalk paint. I also did, before I painted this, I tried fingernail polish remover to remove the imprint, the embossed title of the book that was on the spine. Fingernail polish remover and a little cotton pad worked just perfectly to get that off, and it also got another stain off that book, but the stain wouldn't have mattered, and maybe even the embossed wouldn't have shown through and wouldn't have mattered since I'm painting it anyway. But I was curious to see how hard it would be to get that off, and it hardly took any effort whatsoever. Okay, obviously you saw me taping the pages so that I wouldn't get the pages so I wouldn't get the pages painted. I didn't want the pages to have any paint on them. So painted 2 is what I did, and then I recently found this book about life in the 1800s. And it's very interesting. I think it was published in 1972 or 3, something like that. I did have another little book that I wrapped with some of that dollhouse wallpaper, but it's really just like the scrapbook paper that you can buy also at Hobby Lobby. So pretty. Next project number 11. This is a cherub that I paid $3 for, and I did like it dark, but I decided that it needed to be lighter to go with the Valentine's Day kind of theme that I'm going with, which was more neutral and soft pale pinks with, you know, blush tones and that kind of thing. And actually you can see the features on this little cherub head a lot better painted white. And I just did the one coat, which you can easily see more of the dark still shining through, and that's fine because then that gives it depth and texture. But it's a plaster or resin little angel head. Looks very vintage, but I'm sure it's newer. Project number 12 is taking this cathedral window cutout. These were more popular probably 5 years ago, but I still really love mine. We actually used it in my daughter Olivia's wedding. Okay, I have a huge amount of this fabric. I don't even remember finding it or how long I've had it, but it is just a bunch of fabric. I can make curtains out of it probably. Okay, so as you can see, I cut it out the shape of my wood window, and I used hot glue to secure it to the back. And I pulled it tight so that there wouldn't be any wrinkles in it. And you just do, you know, a few inches at a time so that you can keep it pulled tight. Look at the weave in that fabric. Isn't that pretty? That is very cabbage rose and hydrangea. Very pretty. Loving that. Loving that, loving that. And it gave me a whole new feeling for using that cathedral window frame. You know, it's just made for decor. It never had glass. It was never an actual window. All right, project number 13. I happened to see, as I was digging through my Christmas things very recently, that I had found this big bunch of gold plastic ornaments. But again, I decided they needed to be white. I wanted them more white than gold, and I wanted a little bit of the gold to still show through. So first I did all the backs. There were 12 of them. I did all the backs, and by the time I got finished, you know, doing the last one of the backs, it was time to do the fronts. And I want you to look how they turned kind of bluish. I don't know how that happened, because the original gold and then the white gesso paint over it somehow gave it kind of a blue look, which I'm not hating that. That's fine. Okay, you may have already glimpsed the 14 that was in my foyer with the sheep planter. Here's an image of these if you want to print them out and do your own. I did use a cardstock to make it a little sturdier, and I wanted it to look as if they were metal. So when I cut it out, I did cut out all the little wiggly edges, and then I took a black magic marker or permanent marker and just ran it along the edges to make the edge dark so that it looked more like actual metal. And then these little square dowels, I think those came in a pack from Hobby Lobby. And then I just stuck those in the planter, and to me they look like they could have been letters from a sign or something. Alright, Valentine mini tour. This is a centerpiece made of a big silver plated platter on, it's got little feet under there. I've had that for years actually, but this lovely lady came from Ross just a couple of weeks ago. Is she precious? I think she was $14. And I've got some artificial flowers in there, and you can see those canisters over there. My grandsons think that you know, the best thing ever has happened because I've got candy in the canisters. The little round silver plate box, a little jewelry box, I've had that for quite some time, as well as those candle holders. This is just so much fun. I recently found the mirror with the carved wood around it for $6, if you can believe that. Same day as I found that buttocks basket that was painted that rose pink color. And I've got my hydrangeas in that. I've had that little old vintage suitcase that's mid-century modern with a little starburst pattern on it. I've had that many years. last year I had that little image printed out and I framed it. She's such a cutie. Look at her. She just makes me smile. So sweet. The big rabbit planter is what Ben gave me a $100 gift card to Hobby Lobby. It was the best thing he could have ever given me. So half of my gift card was used up on that big rabbit, but I love it. The big floral swag came from Mallory's wedding 10 years ago. And as you see, I've got little grandbaby photos all mixed in. And that rabbit is huge. It's a planter, but I don't know if I'll ever put it outside and get it dirty. I love it for all the rabbit reasons. Okay, so there's a little collection of frames with little collection of grandchildren. I have 7 grandchildren. I can't even believe that. What am I, 100 years old? I love things that are 100 years old. I guess I'm not offended. Okay, so there's my twins, and there's Lauren with one of the twins, maybe Ridge. Dan and Ridge are identical twins. Who can tell them apart? How sweet. How sweet, how sweet. That pink print is from a little baby dress that I thrifted for about $2, and I've used it several times, all the different kinds of projects I've done lately. And I did embroider a little heart with a flower on the heart. I had thrifted that basket way back in the summer, but the lavender florals I've had for a few years. Different types of lavender. This desk, the shelf beside my piano, has some of my very favorite things in it. Precious little books, and the wooden shoe forms are recent finds. And there's my foyer. The crock has a branch from my backyard, and it has little metal rusty hearts that actually came from Temu. But I love the sheep. I'm really getting a kick out of those pink sheep. Have fun with your crafts. Do things that are fun to you and things that make you smile. Because when you're happy with your things, I think that other people kind of catch that vibe as well. Those are my decoupaged and stained painted hearts, all hanging together on a little string, little ribbons. Little heart-shaped doily. I love to find things like that. No doily left behind. I used a really skinny little jute string on the hearts. And I think there were about 30 of those hearts that came in the package for very little. And I put as many on the little tree branches I thought was pretty, and the rest of them I put in a little bunch that hung down over that print picture. And just a grapevine wreath heart. And I've had that blush wreath for a long time. It came from TJ Maxx. I found that for $2 this past week. It's very old and very stained. And there's my little fake fireplace. So cute. And my figs. You see my figs up there? I've been using those fake figs for about 2 years straight now. They just look so pretty on that tray. I just keep moving them from spot to spot. I like all the neutrals there together. The vintage Victorian girls in the frame. I found it about 2 years ago, and this is the first time I have featured it or used it, actually hung it on my wall. The frame is very chipped up and kind of broken in some places, but that's part of the charm in my opinion. The little gold mirror on the stand, that came from Ross not very long ago. And the bird pictures, I found those early in the summer for a couple of dollars each somewhere, but they truly are old. They've got some age on the background inside the mat on the actual print. This little vase was mine when I was a little girl, and Mother gave it to me recently. She had saved it, and I love it so much. I've always loved birds, very much loving the birds. That's the shelf above my buffet. That dulcimer my daddy made, if you can believe that. Not only is he a musician, he is a master carpenter, master woodworker. I love red transferware. And the little tiny bride and groom, that was the cake topper on mine and Ben's wedding cake in 1988. And there's another little grandbaby. The plate is very old up there. Some of these plates down here are old too, but the one up top is super old. There's my bowl full of blue cherubs. Everybody needs a brass bird, right? Brass bird came from Ross. Some of those came from my sister-in-law's brother. He was an antique collector, and when he passed, she had some of his things and shared them with me, and I'll treasure them forever because she is now with Jesus too. And I realized I almost never show the shelf above my French doors, but I don't change it out much. I'm kind of happy with it how it is. Maybe I'll change it out for fun one of these days. And I love the little cups and saucers with the roses on them, and the fabulous fake figs that they look so real. I mean, I wish I had some figs that were that beautiful and that real. This is the only outdoor Valentine decor that I have. I had this little metal post box that I fixed up last Valentine's Day for that. I love the old vintage Valentines, aren't they sweet? These are just a couple of miniatures that are kind of high on the wall, one little corner of my foyer. And that is one of the walls in my living room. I love that old print. And here again are the planters by my back door. I've let my plants get in pretty sad shape over the winter. And I have a habit of hanging my bouquets. If I have flowers delivered to me, I'll hang them upside down so that they can dry. And then I put them in my baskets that are hanging from the big beam in my living room. Oh, those girls. So precious. And there's another look at our little precious sheep with a velvet ribbon. Thank you for spending time with me today, looking at my projects. I hope that you're inspired to do some things that you enjoy and bring joy to your home. I know you can use a lot of these ideas easily into spring or at any time of the year. I pray that the Lord would bless all of you and give you joy for the coming season and joy in your everyday life.